Okay, we're going to try to redeem ourselves from that one. This is a one land, so we are going to redraw here. Um, that opponent had a lot of torches. This looks like a pretty sweet hand. We've got a couple one-drops. We do need to get our white sigils, but not too bad. We've got a nice low curve here, and we can actually use the X card, Copper Conduit, for any point in our curve that we need it. So that'll be nice because it can really fill in wherever our other cards are going to be lacking. So we'll go ahead and swing in here, and we'll get another flyer. Okay, so we need to. Hopefully, we can hit a white sigil on the next turn and follow that up with another one. We can then start empowering our Order of the Spire. Okay, we're facing another green white deck, and we're going to need to draw a card. We get a white. Just the sigil is also okay, I guess. That will let us play the order next turn. We'll send our flyers in. The flyers are not going to race the opponent's unit very well on their own, so they are going to need a little help here. We may Desert Marshal that thing soon if they don't play anything else that we need to target with it. That won't get rid of the extra size it gains, but it will stop... okay. So that won't get rid of the extra size it gains, but it will stop it from growing again in the future. And we've got a guy who's going to grow a little bit faster, assuming we hit our drops. So the opponent has a Wisp here. They're probably not going to trade, and we should offer the trade even though these have their late game ability, because right now our units are less useful than the opponent's. So we should try to simplify the board here if it's an option. The opponent is probably not taking our trade. I would guess that they've got plans for their Wisp, and they are going to draw some cards off of it. So after they get the ultimate ability from their Wisp off, then our 1/1s are actually going to be more valuable, so we may reconsider whether we want to keep offering those trades to them. Another one. Wow. Okay. So these are all pretty big. We don't have any blocks here. If we can hit our lands, or our sigils, this thing will outpace the opponent's creature, though. So we've got a time sigil, so we're going to grow our guy to a 4/4. And we have a few options. We can Copper Conduit for 5. We can Desert Marshal one of the flyers. We can Desert Marshal the opponent's 6/6. That does not seem very good right now because our creature is set to take it out. We can also kill one of their flyers to keep them from drawing the cards, so that seems pretty good. So let's play this on our 4/4. And we're going to kill this thing. And then we're going to send our attackers in. And we, I think, want to silence now to keep the opponent from drawing cards. We could play the Copper Conduit as a 2-drop, but we're going to save it for next turn since we don't have any other cards in hand. So next turn we can play it as a 5/5 or hopefully a 6/6. And that will give us a nice attacker. We may have to actually double block that student at this point. It's got a couple weapons, so we could actually just chump it here. I am pretty interested in taking 9. We can go to 6. We'll still be alive, and then we'd have this around to block with in the future. If we don't draw a sigil, we're playing a 5/5 Copper Conduit. We'll have a 4/4, a 2/1, and a 5/5 in play. I don't think we're chumping here. Okay. The opponent strangely did not attack with this, so that must mean they want to keep this to block our 4/4. So we can turn this game around pretty quickly with a few sigil draws when this thing gets bigger. And then we'll just have to see if the opponent has a removal for it. So if they can deal with that, we do have the backup plan of these guys here. So, okay, this is interesting. Gemblade on this guy is pretty nice. That will make it a 7/7, but we don't have the sigil for it. So Let's see. If we attack with our 4/4, they could give this +3/+3, so I don't think we want to attack right now. So let's just play a Copper Conduit and pass. We could attack with our flyers. I kind of actually am at the point of wanting to chump this thing with a flyer. We probably want to chump it with a 2/1 first. We'll just pass. The 1 damage to the opponent, it's probably better there to do an attack with both flyers or with just one of them, but I don't really want to overthink things, and it would take me a while to actually come to a decision on that. I'm just going to play it safe and keep these back, because when we when we get into a position that we can win the game, we're going to overwhelm the opponent pretty heavily if we can ultimate these flyers and make this thing really big. So rather than worry too much about it, we're just going to play it safe here. And I think we're chumping because we've got 4, 6, and this would be 11. So we'd have to use 4 of our creatures blocking this. So let's put a chump in front. We can actually make this into a 7/7. If we draw the sigil, we can make this a 7/7 and then play the Gemblade. Or we can play the Gemblade, make it a 7/7, and then have a 14/14. And that should block this thing pretty nicely. So if we draw a sigil here, I think we're equipping this creature and sending in one of our flyers. This gives the opponent information before we make the attack, but I don't think we're making an attack that they can block anyway. We could actually send our 5/5 in as well. That might be a little bit better. We could keep these as chump blockers. No, we'll keep the 5/5 back also. We'll send in one of those. We'll keep the other to chump in case something gains flying out of nowhere. If they play like an Elder's Feather on this, we're going to need a blocker. And I don't think they're going to play an Elder's Feather and have removal for a 1/1. Okay, so 14/16 is pretty big. We, at this point, can take the trade of 14/14 for their 14/16 because we can double block it. The opponent's got 2 mana left. So, they've got 1 more card in hand. Again, I'm just going to try to play it safe here and take the chump block that we can get. We're going to hope to draw a sigil this turn. Okay. That can do some stuff. That's actually really good with Copper Conduit. Oh, this thing got Endurance, so that is pretty decent. We're probably just blocking this and safe returning something. Okay. We'll block with the Copper Conduit, I think. This is nice because the Copper Conduit keeps its size in our hand. So now it is a 6/6 that is going to get plus X, where X is the amount of mana we spend on it. So this thing is going to come down as a 12/12. We don't really have attacks anymore, which stinks a little bit. Probably so we can play the Awakened Student and the Conduit. We can play the Student as a 3/3 and the Conduit as a 10/10 with Overwhelm, which is not bad. That puts more units on our board. And we'll go ahead and pass again. Once we hit that sigil, this thing is going to be 28/28, so we will have a lethal attacker with 1 hit. So we're just waiting to draw that and trying to stay alive until that point. I think we're blocking with a 3/3 this turn. We could have, before this, taken basically a trade of these two. We could have traded our 14-14 for their 15-17. Okay, so that'll kill our 3-3. So we don't get that to block, so we may have to block with these two now. But if the opponent makes this attack, I think we're happy to take the trade now because we have a creature with Overwhelm. Okay, so they did not do the attack. We still have not drawn that sigil we need. So we're going to make the same play we did last turn of dropping a student. And we don't really have, well, we should fly in for one. This will take out the opponent's weapon. If we had not done that, the opponent could just use their weapon to kill our flyer anyway. So if they have an Elder's Feather in hand at this point, we would have died to it. Okay, so the opponent is making this attack. So this thing can be 20 toughness. 15 is going to kill our guy here. We do need to make the block. So, do we put the student in? I don't think it matters too much. And let's see, we are going to do 24 to it. If it gets +3, it can spread 18 damage around, which will kill our student as well. Let's go ahead and do it. That's fine. I'm not going to be too sad about losing the student at this point in the game. Looks like we're just trading those. Yep, okay, so we've lost our biggest creature, but we still have a 10-10 with Overwhelm in play, so our board is a lot better than the opponent's at this point. They've got 2 cards in hand that they will need to make use of. Okay, so that's decent. We cannot attack with our 2-2, but we can plan to just chump this thing. And our 10-10 is going to be lethal pretty fast, so let's send in these 2. Opponent's probably just taking the 10 here. I don't see a reason for them to chump unless they don't realize our creature has Overwhelm. Okay, so they take that, we'll play a Minotaur, and we're going to pass. And next turn we have a lethal attack with our 10-10, so if they can't kill us, they will be forced to start blocking it. And it's a really hard unit for them to block. Alright, that's pretty big. Gain a bit of life back. We are probably blocking with our Minotaur here. What's more useful, the Warcry or this thing growing? We actually don't have a lethal attack next turn without this one, but we don't have lethal anyway because they can just block, so we'll block with the student. Alright, that may be enough. We can give +2/+2. So if the card in the opponent's hand doesn't do anything, we can win here. But if it does something and we attack with all of our creatures, we lose. So I think we're just sending in the 10-10 to see what they can do. So we can attack for 14, and they can only block 1 point of it if we put the daggers on her. Okay, the opponent had enough of it, so I was maybe overthinking whether they had a trick there. But it is good to play it safe when you have some inevitability. So we could attack for 14 that turn. The opponent could only block 1 point of it, but if they had anything else, then all our minions would be exhausted and they could just kill us. So I think it was better to just send in the 10-10 there and then dagger some creatures afterwards. So we've got a pretty bad curve, but we do have all of the mana we need. Not all the mana. We actually don't even have the mana to play any of these, but having 3 of the 4 is pretty useful. We are on the play here. How lucky do I feel? Let's redraw. Okay, we got a student on turn 2. So a nice curve out here. Hopefully we'll hit the sigils we need. Okay. Looking good. Hopefully this doesn't just get murdered immediately. We'll see. If not, this thing should get pretty big, pretty decent. Copper Conduit's a nice one. So we are going to grow our guy. We're going to send it in. Alright, and I think Combre Healer is going to pump. So the opponent's probably not playing Vanquish. We'll have it pump itself. This way, our student is likely to get big on its own. So by spreading the love around, we can have a diverse set of threats. So we've got some pump here. The opponent is tapped out, so they're probably not blocking either of our things. But we'll attack with we'll attack with blue. The opponents, they may take... Okay, so they're going for the block here. They just want to see our trick. We don't have one to show them. But that's okay. We, by doing that, we suggest that we might have a trick, and we just chose not to play it so we could play on curve. Although, they probably noticed that we weren't pausing midway through combat, so... Alright, so this is deadly, but we can silence that. And I think we probably will, because that's going to be a strong blocker for our 3-4. So if we send our 4-4 in, we silence that first, they're going to have to double block our 4-4 or our 3-4 to kill them. I don't think we want to trade the 4-4 for their 2-2 and their 2-1. Huh. And... yeah, I think that the silence on their deadly creature will be useful, but we want to grow this a little bit bigger first. So, let's just play a 4-4. And we could offer this trade for their 1-1, but that's not very good for us, so we'll just pass. These ambush creatures are a little tricky because you can't just play them when you could play a spell. Okay, so this guy's not growing any bigger, so we can go ahead and offer the trade for their two power creatures now. The ambush cards are a little tricky because you can't just play them as a spell. You actually can only play them when being attacked or at the end of the opponent's turn, or when you could play a minion on your turn. So we will need to silence their 1-1 before combat if we're doing the attack here, and I think we're going to go ahead and do it. So that will take away one of the opponent's potential blockers, and I think we're just sending everything in. They can double block one of our 4 power creatures with their 2 power creatures, but we've got 4 of them. So, yeah, we're good here. Not very good blocks without the deadly card. Okay, so actually they can get some pretty good blocks there. They can kill our 5 toughness thing if they want to, but they're probably killing 2 of our 4s. So they'll kill our 2 4/4s. And this actually means we can only get one of these things. So we'll kill this, and we will kill their flyer. So okay, that was a really good trick from the opponent, but I think we're still doing okay. We're going to play our flyer here. We're going to save the other silence card. We were hoping to have an additional 4/4 on the board, but we're still, further ahead on creatures. Okay, so that's going to be hard for us to attack into. We are going to send our flyer. And we can start picking away with that, and we'll get this in play. Okay. So we've got a couple of 8-mana ultimates once we If we get there, if the game goes that long. It looks like it will because our aggression is being held back by this 6/5. And that's probably going to get a silence from us. So it would be nice to have 5 mana to play this Watchwing as well. Send our 1/1 in. Play another Warcry. It's unlikely that we're going to get a relevant Warcry trigger from our 1/3 in this game. But there may be a turn where we just send in everything. If we attacked with all... Well, okay. So 6/5 gains flying. That's going to be a problem. We are not racing that fast, but we do have some more flyers to add to our board. So without that, we may have some good attacks now. If we send our 3 power creatures in, they can get blocked by the 1/5. So our opponent will block, say, our 3/3 Endurance with their 1/5 and their 2/1. So we can trade our 3/3 for their 2/1. Then they've got 2 1/1s and a 2/1. So we would trade a 1/1 for each of our 2/1s if those attacked. And their 2/1 would block something else. So it's not... that's one block they could do. They could also put a 2/1 and a 1/1 in front of our 3/3. They could put a 1/5 and a 2/1 and a 1/1 in front of our 3/4. Then we would be trading our 3/4 for a 2/1 and a 1/1. Then we'd be trading our 3/3 for a 2/1 and a 1/1 and a 1/1. But everything else would get through. So their 1/5 can... Okay, we need to just make a move here. This guy's going to attack. And this guy's going to attack. Okay. The reason for attacking with this is that it basically just trades with any one of their creatures. So this is a block that makes sense from them. We're going to take a 2/1 out here and lose our 1/3 Warcry. But we do remove one of the opponent's pieces from their board. Okay. And we got a Warcry, so our next... that will improve one of our next draws that we get. I think there was a good argument for making a little bit more of an attack on that turn. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a problem. The 1/3 flyer is pretty solid against us. Sending our 3/3 back to hand. That's fine. That's our most expensive unit, so it makes sense. We are not blocking here. Okay, so let's see. We can... Our 2/1s are pretty bad attacks because those get blocked by a 1/5 and a 1/3. So if we're going to send the 2/1s in, we should send all of our 1 toughness creatures in. The 1/1 Warcry gets blocked by a 1/3. A 2/1 gets blocked by a 1/5. We hit for 2 with flying. No, we're not winning that race. And then our other 2/1 gets blocked by a 1/1. We have a 2/1 and a 3/2. So they'll use a 3/2 and a 1/1 probably to block the 3/4. That is not exactly thrilling. Not a great proposition for us to make any sort of an attack here because we're just sacrificing creatures. So we'll pass. Okay, so they have drawn something with Echo, but the opponent's in blue-white, so that could be pretty much anything, you know, in that sort of deck. It looks like they've got a 4/4 in hand. So again, we don't really have a block for that Flying Dinosaur. Inspire? Well, let's see what we're going to get inspired to do here. Play a Justice Sigil. Okay. Well, we are going to play it. We still don't have any attacks. So this game is probably a loss also. I think we're a little too far behind against that dinosaur. And we could take this for another turn, but I think it's probably about time to start jumping that. something else the opponent has could suddenly get flying. That's not really going to do much for us. One more sigil will let us ultimate something. So, looks like this is a loss, though. Okay, sure. Looks like they can just swing with everything if they want to. They don't really need to do that, though. We do need to chump this. And I don't think that's going to do it. We'll just stop here.